Good morning.
Don't play with me. Loose around here, man.
Good morning. Good morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the show. It is Michelle Bryant here at WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You are listening to Say Something Real. And yes, my voice is toe up. Jermaine was like, ooh,
Man,
what's going on? And I'm like, hey, bruh, I'm talked out. I am talked out, tapped out. Uh, Let me just say, it is a great day today.
yes.
History has been made in the state. We knew that it would be. Like I said, no matter which way this thing worked out. But we got to talk about the election results, what that means going forward. You know, how do you now coalesce, unite, get behind the Democratic nominee for those folks that are rocking with Democrats? How do you heal some wounds? The conversation, the real work begins today.
That's right.
Make no mistake, that was a hard fought primary, and on so many levels, a lot of people couldn't have predicted the turnout. There were people that believed in DC, David Crawley from the beginning, but when he got out of the race, it changed everything. There were folks that would tell you, I thought Sarah Rodriguez, was going to be like the strong contender. Thought Joe Brennan would have attracted more attention than he did. Francesca Hong had consistently been doing well in the polls, placing 1, 2, or 3, mostly 1 and 2, depending on the polls that you were looking at. And even when we talk about the Marquette poll, 92% rating in terms of general accuracy about the findings from their polls. But one of the things I even said on yesterday, and I've said it before, is that when you look at those polls, Black people always wonder, where do we show up in those numbers? How representative they are. And then when you put certain candidates on the ballot, you get a wild card factor. So there's a lot to get to this morning. And let me start the day off, though, by saying what's up to my boys in the building. Hey, Clark Kent.
Who you with?
Man.
Woo!
I am with the Wisconsin electorate this morning.
Yes.
Folks, a lot of folks stayed up.
Yes.
I wasn't mad at those that went to bed. At 12 o'clock, this race had not been called. At 1 o'clock, this race had not been called. 1:30, 1:45, I think you begin to get an idea that they were ready to call this race. I think the Associated Press called it before anybody, and then eventually it got called here in the state. So I think as late as 2:30 this morning, those results were still coming in. I literally had went to bed, got up to go to the restroom, and I said, Alexa, who won the Democratic primary? Blah, blah, blah. And Alexa was like, man, I don't know, dog.
I'm asleep too. I don't know. Tell you the
so, I was checking in my sleep. I was checking for what went on. Let me say good morning to Mr. Rideout. Wait, but you good, Clark?
Yeah, you know what? I want to ask you a question. So is he like the first person that ever dropped out, got back in it, and won it?
Maybe in the state. I know not in the country. I think that there have been. That's why, again, when people decide to get out of a race, you hear wording and usage and language like suspend.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you suspend your campaign, you have the ability to revive it. So if things happen, candidates drop out, whatever, you have the ability to like resume campaigning. So you'll hear that word frequently used, suspend. That's that, that caveat that you get to use to be able to keep your foot in the door, just in case.
But is that like a history moment though?
But this is certainly, I mean, you couldn't turn on any media outlet around the country and they were not talking about not only this race, but this comeback story.
Yes.
The just the craziness of it all.
Yes.
I was riding in this morning listening to Sirius XM, and on Dr. Carr and Lamont's show, Dr. Carr wasn't in. Joe Madison's daughter was sitting in with Lamont, and it was the first thing I heard as soon as I turned the radio on. So, because there is a lot that people are paying attention to when you talk about this further left part of the Democratic Party, in terms of Democratic Socialists, what's the word I want to use? Hyper progressives, if you can. And that's not an actual term, I made it up. But these folks that go further sometimes than traditional Democrats go or are willing to go. Because when you look at what happened in Michigan, when you look at what happened in New York, people are paying attention to these other voices. And I'm going to tell you right now, and we'll get into this, while Francesca Hong lost this race, it's no way Francesca Hong is not critical in going forward to win the governorship for David Crawley.
Okay.
Because you're talking about a race that was decided by less than 3,000 votes.
Right.
Now, it would be different if we were talking about Democrat versus Republican and the race was decided by 3,000 votes. We're talking about within the party.
Okay.
Within your house,
okay.
A race was decided by 3,000 and something votes. That means anybody that's strategically, mapping out the path forward to victory for David Crawley has to understand half of the Democrats that showed up for the most part was rocking with Francesca. And that means that those people value what she was saying. And how do you figure out either if I'm going to incorporate any of that into what I'm doing? How do we partner and align ourselves? I listened to Francesca. I was in the car driving. And I just want to say to every individual that worked those polls yesterday, that are there the day before setting up, that are in those buildings 6 a.m., getting those poll books out, making sure that at 7 when those doors open, we are ready to roll. And, hopefully it is without any issues or problems. Kudos to the election workers, the captains or the lead inspectors, chief inspectors. These people do an incredible job. And sometimes we just take it for granted. I'm just looking for I voted sticker. The folks in my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, I mentioned that we operate a polling site, the Clinton Road Center, and we left up out of there like almost at 11 o'clock last night. When I got off the radio, I went to join my sorors who were closing everything down and, dealing with getting all the stuff that they needed to close out this election and making sure, T's were crossed and I's were dotted. And these sisters stayed in there strong and got that done. It made me think about all of the people that show up and do that work because it's something I don't get to see. I'm now getting the opportunity to see the kind of work that goes into making sure our elections run smoothly.
Okay. I got another question to ask. So since he won and she, lost, could he pick her as a lieutenant governor?
Nah. Okay. So Sarah Galuski ran as lieutenant governor. So that's a separately elected position.
Okay.
They end up, usually partnering up. But yeah, no, we don't have the ability to pick our lieutenant governor. They run their own individual
Okay.
campaign.
Okay.
Let me check in real quick with Mr. Rideout. What's going on, player?
What's going on, Shell? It's a beautiful day. History was
In the
made.
neighborhood.
Yeah, you know, I was going to ask my question, but it's a lot to get to.
No, go on, ask your question.
Well, you know,
oh, that did take a whole lot of
since you
lot of
insist,
prodding.
someone asked the question.
Okay, wait.
And that someone is me.
No one asked the question.
That's someone. That's me.
What's your question, bro?
Shell,
Yes, sir.
I know your brain has been working hard.
Oh, it's toast.
Oh, but I think I might have one to trip you up.
Do you? You?
Now, if an octagon has 8 sides and an octopus has 8 legs, why is October the 10th month? Shouldn't October be the 8th month? Make it make sense.
You thought that was real good.
Riddle me that. You know, I had a lot of time on my hands. You know, it's my birthday.
So, and I'm assuming, and let me just make sure I'm clear. I'm assuming you may be aware that at one time in history, October actually was the 8th month.
What? Why they move it?
The ancient Roman calendar only had 10 months in a year, and it began in March. So when January and February were added later, October shifted to the 10th position, but did not change. The name didn't change. So to your point about
Not again. Not again.
to your point.
Not again.
Hey man, who is these people that just added these 2 months, man?
So to your point, and
I'm just saying, think about it. It made you think.
You thought about that one.
Hey, listen here, man. Why is October the 10th month? If an octagon has 8 sides, octopus has 8 legs, but October is the 10th month. Man, come on, man.
And the reason why that kind of falls into place is because the thing that Keith loves to do when he talks about a word structure. So when you talk about prefixes or looking for the origin of the word, the root of the word, whether we're talking about Latin or Greek or whatever, that first couple of letters, OCTO, and there are different variants of it, OCTA, OCT period, that actually means 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from both Latin and Greek roots.
Watch out,
So,
boy.
when people talk about the etymology of a word, that is what that means. So it is a natural thing for folks who understand that the letters OCT, OCTA, that when you see the beginning of those letters in front of in front of a word, you understand that somewhere in there, 8, the amount of 8 should be a part of this meaning. So that's why the question totally makes sense that Jermaine raised this morning.
Boy, you talking about that good, boy.
Well, I did turn 50 and in my 50 moment, I said, hey, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why is it the 10th month?
Yeah.
And who are the people that added these other 2 months?
That AARP working, ain't it?
and just to push it out further. So he said octopus, animal with 8 arms, the octagon, and an octave. If you are a musician, a group of notes that has 8 notes. So
Make you say,
that boy good. That boy good.
Maybe I need to drink more of this tea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jay. So that was a question. That was a good question. That was a good question. And
Back to
something
you,
yeah,
Bob.
a lot of people, something a lot of folks may not think about. Looking in the chat, let me say good morning to everybody online. We appreciate y'all for checking in. Do me a favor, scroll down to the bottom, please. There was somebody, Radonna Williams. She said, thank you. Up at 4:45 a.m. to be at the site where I volunteered at 7 a.m. I love it. Meeting and greeting the voters. Now the real work begins. Go, David Crawley. Yeah, not until you walk. You ain't even got to walk the whole mile. Not until you take some steps in other people's shoes and you realize all this stuff is going on behind the scenes, in the background. You got to have total respect for what people do that makes our life easier, a little bit more seamless. And even though there was a glitch yesterday in terms of information being uploaded, the proper file being uploaded to a USB flash drive to be able to transfer the information, we'll talk about that as well. But just kudos and applause to the folks that do that work to make these elections possible for us here. And these are a combination of volunteer and paid things that are happening. So we just want to say thank you. Let me go to the phone line. Got some callers that are in right away. Let's hear what's on folks' mind. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, Michelle. A great morning to you. This is Dion.
Hey, Dion.
How you doing? I know I irritated you with some texts yesterday, even though you probably didn't have your phone on last night.
You know what? Again, I think I went to bed like at 1:15.
Yeah.
And I tried to watch the results for as long as I could. People had been reaching out last night. Like I'm doing interviews as soon as I get off the radio this morning in other media markets around the country about this race. So yeah, there was not a whole lot of sleep going on, but it's a good morning.
Yeah. I didn't get to bed till like 11:45, but I just have 4 points to say, which you basically hit them all. Number one, DC made it.
Yes.
Number two, the Marquette poll, he was at 8%. I sat on my chair yesterday morning when you brought it up to 92%, and I said, he going to be the 8%. Michelle, he was the 8% that made it. And they don't call the right people. I've always wondered that myself. I've never received a call.
Yeah, a ton of people say that.
Never even a text.
849 people. Who did you talk to?
Right, and I have a home phone and a cell phone.
Right.
No call on either one. And then number three, I know it might be a recount. Hopefully it's not, because she may be pressured. And then number four, DC and us have work to do.
You are absolutely right. And first of all, thank you for the call this morning, being so engaged on this issue. She has already called David Crawley this morning, early this morning to concede. Mm-hmm. She is not planning, it looks like from all accounts, to do a recount. She has, and in her remarks that she made yesterday, Francesca is a class act. I don't care what nobody said. The way she talked about, it doesn't matter who wins, that we have to unite. We have to continue to fight for each other.
Right.
If you listen to her remarks, she was conciliatory when he got back in the race. She has shown great leadership throughout this entire thing. And I know that they said that Democratic Party leadership was planning activities this morning right away to begin, to heal some of the foolishness that went on. So they're talking about a unity breakfast. I don't know if any of those things happened because the results came in so late. But I think canceled. So I think though that she is going to be a rock star in helping to get him across the finish line.
And I just have one more thing to say. I apologize because I know people want to hear you, not me.
No, go ahead.
When he dropped out, Michelle, I was not planning on voting at all because I was not pleased with any of the other candidates, and I'm being honest.
Okay.
And this would have been my first election that I did not vote. and I'm a highly exceptional voter. You know those little cards you get in the mail after certain elections?
Right.
I was not going to vote. That's how much I was against the other people. And I understand Francesca Hong and what she was about, but you know, I really wanted him to make it. And I think Mandela, he just spoiled it when he got in the race. And he did that out of spite. And I know I keep texting you that and saying that. He did that out of spite, and I think he was wrong for that.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your
good day.
comments on that. Yes, ma'am. Got another caller. Let's get them in. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning,
Hey, good morning.
and thank you so much for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I too was up very late. But you know something, Francesca? I loved her speech. Okay?
Yeah, she did it. That was a good speech.
You know, it's not all the time about how you win, but it's how you lose with grace. Her speech was so dynamic. Somebody need to really dissect that and listen to what's going on. And I think she's going to be instrumental in pulling the party together. And I also like Royal. I liked her speech.
Yeah, Kelda.
And I like Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that are serious about the Democratic Party and bringing our country together. Now, these other ones, I wasn't all that impressed with. But the reason why David Crawley got out is because he was misled. He thought Sarah had it going on and that she was, whatever information she was saying, that it was true. So he figured, it's not about me. It's about us really working together. But the next time we do something in history, I hope and pray we don't get 9 people from the same party, that they get together. But out of that, we would not have discovered Francesca's, her graciousness. How, I mean, we would have missed some things. And these other 3 people that said, we're going to pull it together. And I hope we don't dig and make it difficult for them to work together. Let's pull it in. And I'm telling you, she did a remarkable job being neck and neck. And the young people, I hope they see and learn something from that example of what she's displaying for us. Because I'm going to tell you, I wasn't going to vote for none of the women.
Mm.
And when David Crawley dropped out, I too was brokenhearted, but I was not going to not vote.
Okay.
Because I talked to too many people encouraging them to go vote. And I think a lot of young people are going to show up in November, a lot more than what they did. Because now, it should not be that difficult to beat this Republican. I don't care what nobody says. He's been a yes man for Trump. He's not going to do anything other than what Trump wants him to do. And it's time. And I have a question. What? Hong, is she in a political? Is she a? What is she doing?
She's a state representative.
She's a state representative.
Yes, ma'am. She's up in Madison.
Okay.
She's a state rep.
Okay. Now we need to make her. And then the other young lady, she's a senator.
Yes, Kelda Roys is a state senator.
Okay. We need to make Hong a senator up there. Okay? We need to put that out there. We need to get rid of some of these sorry Republicans that have been making life difficult for Milwaukee. I hope they see the writing is on the wall. We're tired of the foolishness. We're tired of beating people down. They talked about everybody being able to get in and get a piece of the pie. Since the Republicans have been in there, do you know what the black unemployment is? So these people that are running around tooting the horn for the Republicans, shut up and get under a bush because it's not working.
All right.
And
Thank you. I'm sorry.
And
Go
I'm just
ahead.
saying, I am so grateful that she conceded. And the breakfast is supposed to be pushed until 11. Now, whether or not they do that or not, I don't know. But I thought Channel 12 was a little one-sided last night. That was just my gut feeling. You know what I'm saying? On how they did things and how they showed up. And why didn't they use Jared? I think Jared is a good reporter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think they're slighting him. And they should not. And that's just my take on it.
All
what
right.
a great day.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you, DC, you got your work cut out for you. But you got us backing. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, I got to take my first break of the morning. The show this morning is open for you all to be able to call in, provide your thoughts, insights. I will give you mine. I'll do it, either weaving it throughout the show or towards the end of the program. I'm really interested in hearing from you all. But everybody, knows this, understands this. The work, the additional work starts today. So let me take a break. I'll be right back. All right, family, welcome back to the show. So taking time this morning to talk about the outcome of the election here the primary election here in Wisconsin on yesterday. Obviously, the race that garnered the most attention is that of the 7 individuals that at one time had been vying for the nomination on the Democratic side of things to ascend to the governorship. And, by the time we got to the polls, it had been whittled down to 4 people. And this story ends up being, nothing short of crazy. I just want to make a quick comment. The last caller that we had before we went to the break, she talked about Francesca Hong being elevated to a state senator, but she also had mentioned Kelda Roys. I just want the caller to know Kelda Roys is the senator in the assembly district that Representative Hong represents. So Representative Hong would either have to run against Senator Roys or she'd have to move to a different district to be elevated to state senator. So I just wanted to make that quick observation. I want to take one quick second before I get to the phone line, and here I come. But, and I don't want to do the whole thing. Let me see if I can do this right here. Okay, so there is this poem that I have heard most of my life. There is a particular fraternity of men who recite this poem on a regular basis. And the poem is entitled If you can keep your head about you If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knives and make trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap all of your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and loss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve and turn long after they are gone. And so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with the crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, not lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can feel the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I want David Crawley to get this poem, and I want him to keep it somewhere in his office. In fact, when he wins the governorship, I'm going to get it framed and send it to him, because this is the thing that so many people get caught up and lose sight about. You have to go back through and read through this poem yourself. It was done by Rudyard Kipling, but the ability to be able to hear people ask the tough questions, to meet the moment, to not get caught up in the headlines, to understand that while people can believe in you, you know that people will leave you hanging, that you keep the common touch, you stay connected to the community that puts you in place to succeed. There are examples after examples, and I think Mandela Barnes is one of those examples of how people forget the if, because there were a whole bunch of ifs that put David Crawley in this position. You just got to tell the truth about that. If Sarah Rodriguez hadn't been, caught up with this campaign scandal in terms of finances, if the money she claimed she had was real, if Mandela didn't have this scandal looming over his head in the background, because that's why he got out the race. It wasn't about the poll said that Francesca Hong was going to be the candidate. That wasn't it. He got out of this race because of this scandal and all of this foolishness that was going on behind the scenes. If that doesn't happen, are we still talking about David Crawley as the governor? As the nominee? If he had made the choice to do something different and never stepped back in the race. So there are a bunch of ifs that happen. And the thing that I always try to say to folks is, don't get the big head and believe that, I'm great and this is all lining up for me because I'm great. All of these things have to happen in order for us to be here this morning. But the common thread and the common denominator that most people, in fact, I don't know anyone that would disagree with me, will say is that David Crawley is a decent brother. He is a family man. He is somebody who has been on the grind and in the struggle and committed to working on the, for the betterment of this community for as long as most people have known him. That's the common thread. That's the appeal. That's what makes it easier to vote. We can bring in all the experience. I've talked about his experience and the things that he brought to the table in terms of a resume. But it is those other things that will also pull him across the finish line. This is a reminder to always be the dude that puts you in position to be in this moment. Because too many people, they ascend and they forget. They begin to believe the headlines and forget the people who brought them along. I think, honestly, some of that is what happened to Mandela. There will be moments in my commentary that people will be uncomfortable. I'm okay with that. Because the other if, I've railed on this, wrote a column about it. If Evers doesn't come out and endorse, if all of the little folks don't start fundraising last minute, none of that support in great number was there the first time around. And I want to remind David Crawley of that as you looking in the faces of these people skinning and grinning in front of you right now. Whether Marquette got it right or wrong about the 5% in polling, and Sarah Rodriguez and them campaign lie about how much money they have in the bank, you still know who was rocking with you, who was helping you, who was fundraising for you, who was out doing doors and working on your behalf. Because see, everybody like it when you win it. Everybody wants to be in your face when it looks like, you know, the tides have turned, the ship is moving, because Negroes, people, it's what's in it for me. Not just that, oh, I helped this cat ascend to this. This was a huge accomplishment. A lot of people in the community can take great pride and great joy. No. Because many of them faces were nowhere to be seen when he made the decision to exit the race. And some of y'all, I'm not impressed. All this jumping around and jumping in front of the camera, it's people been rocking with David Crawley for years. 4 years. That county executive race was a hard-fought race, the first one. And it was a whole bunch of people in the Democratic establishment that was not rooting for him. They were rooting for Chris Larson. They were endorsing and supporting Chris Larson. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Definitely.
Yesterday I called in. I wasn't sure about my polling place. Somewhere I thought I heard it on the radio and it had been changed.
Okay.
So I called into the radio and talked with Mr. Keith Pierce. And he directed me to my vote and told me to put in my address and whatnot. And so I did. And it told me my regular polling place, which is Francis Starnes Discovery Learning Center. And so I drove over there, and I had to thank the lady that lives across the street from the school who directed me to the correct polling place, which was Francis Starnes Early Childhood Center, which is on 26th and Garfield. So, yeah, my vote was not updated. Do they update when there's a change like that?
When you say your vote was not updated, you mean, what do you mean?
Not my vote, the polling place.
Okay. So it wasn't updated. So you never got anything to let you know that the location had changed?
I heard it. I thought I heard it on your radio show, but maybe I heard it on
Was that
TV.
about 21st Street in Center Street Library?
No, it was Francis Stein, which is on 25th and Brown.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, because I wasn't in the studio when that happened, and Keith talked about it. So yes, ma'am, I know, and I'm not sure like what was the reason or the rationale behind the change in location, if it was temporary just for this election, and you'll be back there in November. So I can also do some digging around, but you know, sometimes things just happen. There's equipment, a problem with the building, or you know, whatever's going on, and they have to make a decision quickly and then notify people. So let me figure out also what happened or what went on, and you know, I'll be happy to bring it up as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling.
Have a good day.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Williams, she checked in. She said most of my high school students know if. That's a powerful thing, because it teaches you, you know, how to operate when times are good and when times are bad. You know, that you keep your wits about you when everybody else is losing theirs. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello.
Greetings.
Yes. Good morning.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Hey,
brother.
how you doing, sis, brother,
right.
community? Just calling in because I appreciate, even though it was a couple of challenges at the Bronzeville Fest, I was able to appreciate people that came by and seen me. And I can't hear you. I'm in a situation where I can't hear what you were saying on the radio, but I also want to share to make sure people is up on the weather concerns of the air quality, and that today is a solar eclipse, and that was the indication for Nat Turner
Right.
to set it off.
right.
And because he set it off, only 50 people, so we don't need a lot, just 50 people set it off in 1831 in August. The Virginia legislature decided that they would possibly
Hello?
that Lena had for some time as a legislator to end slavery as something within the prison. So just letting people know, solar eclipse today. And then I had a question for you. I'm not going to be able to hear you, but I'm just going to put it out there. Is that I have a concern about the adjunct general position in the state of Wisconsin, which is the person that's in charge of emergency management for the state. And that's their only job. They're appointed by the governor. The one we got now was appointed last year. They serve a 5-year term. And of course, the governor can call an emergency, but guess who else can call an emergency? And guess who the adjunct general is beholden to, being a military person of the National Guard.
You know, it was hard to hear the most of your comment because it was kind of choppy. Can you say it one more time?
I said I have a concern about the adjunct general position in the state.
Okay.
Because that's a position in the National Guard where their task or job is dealing with emergencies in the state of Wisconsin. And so the governor can call a state of emergency, but he's not the only one that can call, because the commander-in-chief can call an emergency as well. And that position is a 5-year position. And the person we got was appointed last year. So they have several more years to roll. So I had a question about the type of power they have.
But
yes,
because that's what I thought you were saying, and I had to kind of go back and look. So the governor is the only person in Wisconsin that can declare a state of emergency. The adjunct general, like you said, who's appointed by the governor, and the administrator of the Wisconsin Emergency Management, they coordinate all of it, but they don't possess the legal authority to declare a state of emergency themselves. That's
even as a military, a person that is come up in the military. Right. That's a military officer, the adjunct general.
Nope, I understand the terminology, but in the way state statute is written, they don't have that authority. Only the governor can declare a state of emergency in Wisconsin.
But the federal government can declare emergency in a state, or issue a state of emergency.
Yes. But so what you're saying is what? Because the federal government can declare a state of emergency, they could use the adjunct general in some capacity to execute on this?
I'm wondering.
So look, and I have somebody who is listening to the show who said that is true what you said, referring to me. I was the state emergency manager, and I forgot that one of our regular listeners to the show, Brother Darrell Williams, he was formerly a state emergency manager for the state. So yeah, the federal government obviously has the ability to do what they do, but in terms of the state, it's just the governor that has that role, or I'm sorry, that authority. So
that I leave with this, sis.
Okay.
That I appreciate everybody, and then no matter who gets elected, we need to look at the things that will help us move forward no matter who's there, who's in the White House or who's in the governor's house. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. And just so folks know, this morning at 9 a.m., the county executive is going to be speaking over at Sherman Phoenix. He will be accepting the nomination. And from what folks are saying in the Journal Sentinel, that this is going to be both a victory speech and also a call to rally the party to get ready for this upcoming November 3rd election and to take on Tom Tiffany. So I will certainly be listening to his remarks to see, what the charge is, what the call is. Do I need to take a break? All right, let me take a break real quick. Callers, if you can hang in, please do. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. I'll be right back.
Your host, V.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Got callers that held through the break, so I'm going to get them in. I just want to take one quick second. There was a number of reporting that was going on. I was watching the New York Times last night, different articles from different bylines, different reporters contributing as the day was progressing yesterday, well into early this morning. One of the articles was titled "The Upset in Wisconsin Shows the Limits of the Left." And then it said the Democratic establishment finally struck back at the surging populist left. I'm just going to say to the folks who wrote that article, y'all need to stop playing. Because you don't get a race in which the victory was decided by like 3,100 or 211 votes, whatever that actual number is, and say that they struck back. This mess came down to the wire. And so you have to appreciate that this is not a full outright rejection of the policies, the views that was being brought by the other candidate. And that's the thing I keep trying to say, is that we want to try to act like we can just smack down the other opinions and positions of people. I say this as somebody who in the Capitol watched Black folks try to champion the causes and the issues of Black people, of the city of Milwaukee in particular, and how it would just be swatted down, treated indifferently. And, this is the way people do business. You are a fool. And you stand to put yourself in a crazy position if you are unwilling to pay attention to what the candidate was saying, who came within less than 1% of a victory in this race. The lesson that every vote counts. 3,000, a little over 3,000 votes separates people. You could have went to just one neighborhood and rustled up, or one district and rustled up these kinds of numbers. So those kind of articles irritate me, because we gonna mess around and not listen and not pay attention and not be willing to figure out where there's common ground and how we can coexist with different ideologies. Because I'm friends with people that I do not disagree. I mean, that I don't agree with them on everything. I work with people that, for the most part, we in alignment, but we have some major divergences, but we still figure out how to work together. The vitriol that was used in this race, and I'm going to go right up to Tony Evers in the way some of this stuff was talked about, it bordered on you tripping. Because as I said yesterday, it felt like a scorched earth. Say anything you got to say to keep people from voting for Francesca Hong so we can get David to win this race. But if y'all don't think for 5 minutes you're going to need Francesca's help to move her voters to David's corner, then y'all crazy. That's why you don't unnecessarily burn down the damn house. And that's all I've been trying to say all along. Talk policy, not personal. David Axelrod coming in here calling people crazy, you did not help. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, this is Sister Herrera. Sorry.
Hey, Sister Herrera, how you doing
I'm
this
waiting
morning?
so long. Hey, you don't want to know. You know I'm tired. Didn't go to no victory party because I knew the victory was already won. When his queen said that I saw that the orange bird, and he came and I asked God to send me a message before I tell my husband, the king, run it, you go back in the race. And this is all ordained. And like I said, I went to the altar yesterday. I went in and out of the hospital last week, but let me tell you, I never stopped. I talked to people at the hospital. I was just, I sat there for 10 hours, but honey, I did my work, and I've been on the battle for ever since, because we couldn't vote until we was 21 in 1967. Since the other candidate didn't win, so me and my mom, we worked on Hubert Humphrey's campaign in 1967. So I have never not voted. And like I said, those babies came out. It was 75% of the young folks, the young adults, came out and voted yesterday. I was just so excited. We broke history in our poll. And those babies came in, and some of them said, if David don't win, we ain't voting in November. But and I told them, I said, no, you got to, but don't worry, I said, because this is ordained. I said, he is going to win. Like I said, I didn't need to go to no victory. I didn't have time anyway. I was so tired because I worked and we closed it out and everything.
Right.
So my intention was not to come, because I work at the polls all the time. Not at the polls, but I'm out here in the street trying to make sure that our people get it. We get all these chances, and I think this is the last chance we're going to get to make it right.
All right. Thank you, Sister Herrera. I appreciate it. Somebody said, claim it. I appreciate the call. And it is that type of determination that has always moved the needle for our community and for folks, in our community, when we have made up our mind that this is what we are doing, we usually can be successful. I want to take a second caller. I'm coming, but I'm looking at some of the comments on social media. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, I didn't do the whole layout. I'll do that later in the week. How this race breaks out demographically, what the other races were looking like. I'm looking around the rest of the country to see what was going on. But I'm going to be honest. I didn't try to come up with a coordinated, orchestrated way by which to talk about this morning. I was really interested in what people have to say. So one of the things I'm looking at, somebody said Crawley and his obscene surrogates should have thought about that before they used misogyny against Hong. Can you scroll up a bit for me, Clark, or down so I can see the rest of this? Which equals or is greater than racism. My ball isn't even in play, and it won't be. That's what somebody said on the chat. Someone said overwhelmingly disappointed in Black Milwaukee, older Black Milwaukeeans, and the status of Black elected officials in the metro area. Right now, we look like DNC puppets. Let me go up for me, Clark. Yep, go up. Okay, someone said we need solid commitments and pledges for those who ran to back the primary candidate at this time. We have definitely heard that. Brennan, Kelda have come out in their remarks. They are on, screen saying they're going to do everything they can to get the nominee across the finish line. Congratulations, David Crawley. Somebody said, oh, this is that same person. Would anyone here be calling for unity if the winner used racism to win? If not, then don't expect women to care about women's rights who care about women's rights to be united with your candidate who used misogyny to win. Okay, so let me take a second. Let me get the caller, and then I'll take a second and deal with that piece. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Doing well. It was a long night, and I tried to stay in there, especially right when the issues with the download was brought up. I'm like, okay, this is not going to be resolved anytime soon, so I went to bed. But I felt kind of good that, well, at least we know they got to deal with those, I think it was 28,000. I kept hearing the number 28,000 votes or whatever. But the bottom line is he won. So now the hard work starts, and quite honestly, this proved why you should vote. Every vote matters. He could have easily lost this thing by a point of a vote or two. So
Right.
for the people who say, well, why does it even matter? This is why it matters. And more importantly, if you think back on Wisconsin politics, you know, Ron Johnson had a chance to be beaten, and we came up short, okay? And then that enabled Trump to continue on with this nonsense. Now, David's situation where he's the comeback kid, he's a good dude, he's prepared for the role. It's an opportunity for us to get somebody in there, and particularly in the current climate, you need governors to kind of be the buffer from what these fools in Washington could do to you. Because you remember, they put in legislation to give the governor ultimate accountability when they thought they were going to give the keys to the kingdom to Scott Walker. And then when he didn't win, and Evers has lived off of that, and it's been helpful to the people of Wisconsin. So if Tiffany gets in there, then it's going to be no holds barred. They're going to just do all kind of crazy stuff while the Trump administration is still in charge. So we got to get David Crawley across the finish line. We got to, if you voted, great. Bring 3-4 extra people that you know didn't vote with you this time. And we got to get our participation up in the city of Milwaukee, and I believe he can build a coalition with the other candidates. So I'm not worried about him being able to take aspects of their thoughts and get their folks' issues into his policy. But I am concerned that we get apathetic and say, well, he won, so I don't have to do nothing. No, he just in the game now, for real. So
Right.
Tiffany and them guys, they're going to be coming hard. And I believe that David will be more than capable of dealing with him toe to toe. The question is going to be the propaganda and if he wants to avoid debating him. Because I would love to see David debate this guy and talk about, you know, his plan versus the other side, and let people pay attention to, here's somebody who you should be able to relate to. This dude is from where a lot of people are. If you can't figure this out, I don't know what to tell you. So good luck to him. He's going to need your dollars. He's going to need your time, and he's going to need your vote. So figure out which of those things you can provide.
Wait. Say those three things again. He's going to need what now?
Your dollars, your time, and your vote.
All right.
Yeah.
It can't be said more succinctly than that. Thank you, bro. I appreciate the call. Let me go back and address this thing about misogyny that was listed in the chat. You know, Kimberly Crenshaw, who did critical race theory, they talk about this idea of intersectionality, where you can have race be something that is held against you or a factor in the way you're treated, handled in this world, but also that gender can be something that dictates the way you can be treated, handled in this world. And I think that Francesca Hong definitely had an intersectionality of race and gender that became an issue, or that was it was like a underlying thing, you know, in the room as people had conversations about her quote electability, the way she was described because of the ideas that she had. You know, we frequently see words used against female candidates that are not used against men who exhibit the same positions, behaviors, or beliefs. This is a misogynistic nation. There were people who would not vote for Kamala Harris for no other reason than that she was a woman. Many of them are in y'all household. Many of them lead y'all churches. Many of them are your friends, your husbands, your sisters, your wives, because there were women who did not vote for Kamala Harris because they didn't believe that a woman was capable of keeping America safe and leading this country. So misogyny is not restricted to one party, to one gender. We've seen it done time and time again. The frustration that I voice often about seeing women that are overly educated, overly qualified, be beat out by men who undereducated, underqualified, lightweight resumes, and we watch these men ascend to positions of great power and influence. The women could run circles around many of these men, but they are not given the same grace. They're not given the same opportunity. They're not given the same access, and they're not given the same support. I want to be clear about that. So I see your thing about misogyny, but everybody do it. Black folks do it. White folks do it. Hispanic, Latino folks, Asian people do it. Everybody do it. Democrats do it. Republicans do it. Independents, Green Party, everybody does it. It's a whole bunch of women that get overlooked, pushed to the back. I watch men rally around men that ain't got no damn business ascending to some of these positions yet. I'm not saying you ain't gonna never be there, but you wasn't ready at the time when people started rallying around you. I mean, just for a second. And I've talked about it on the show, so I ain't trying to be messed up. When David Crawley ran for county exec, he hadn't completed college yet. He was on his way, but he hadn't completed it yet. You got Chris Abley, who was able to run the county. He hadn't completed college. What did I say about Black folks in the state legislature? All of the women had advanced degrees. Many of the brothers didn't have any. Now, there were some that did, but many of them didn't have any. But when you start talking about who's jockeying for leadership, who's getting access and opportunity, them highly qualified, highly educated sisters was being pushed to the back. So, nah, fam, don't tell me you're not going to vote for Crawley because of misogyny. It's other issues that we got to also take into consideration. Because if Tom Tiffany gets in office, somebody being messed up to women is going to be the least of our concerns. We are watching right now to figure out if these Republicans are going to try to figure out how to mess up midterm elections, come in here and do some type of national security emergency and try to stop folks from voting. I'm listening now to podcasts where Trump, the podcaster is floating the idea that, if the Congress doesn't pass the SAVE Act for you, you can take these steps and lay them out and declare national emergency, do this, and then you can sidestep Congress and institute many of the voting restrictions that you want to see happen. Do not give up your right and your voice to vote because you upset about what you thought was misogynistic behavior. Hold these people accountable, fight them back, and make sure that it doesn't continue to happen. Don't take your ball and go home. You want to say something?
Nah, I was going to say, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Trump and this whole thing of him trying to rig stuff and how he can declare certain things which can stop the elections.
Right.
And we see it unfolding, like he's actually laying out the plan right in front of us. And we see the steps that he's going to try to take to interrupt, because he know if the Democrats get in position, all of these guys are going to prison. They going to jail.
Hang on. The other thing I want to say is, while people are talking about what we got to do to make sure we maintain a Democrat as governor, you also got to work to flip those seats in the state legislature, because Tony Evers could only go so far because you didn't have the cooperation of the legislature.
Yep.
And if you don't get at least one of those houses, the Senate or the Assembly, he is going to have just a difficult road as Tony Evers had. And you end up governing by executive pen. So I just want people to be clear. The work isn't just about getting, it was the same thing with Barack Obama. You can get the presidency, but if you lose control of Congress, the only way he can work and move is through executive orders, which are things that can be overturned or reversed. So let's just keep that in mind. Go ahead. Let's bring up the next caller. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning.
Do me a favor, turn your radio down for me.
Okay, yes, I did. Good morning. A couple of things. I just grabbed an actual journal. It's been so long since I had a physical paper. I could not.
Wait, hang on. Do you have us on speaker?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to take us off? Because it's kind of hard to hear.
Better?
Yes, ma'am.
Better?
Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, I just find it really interesting. I got an actual paper, and what is crazy is Crawley's victory is not on the front cover. And I'm just amazed.
Wait, you got a paper from where? What kind of paper?
I got a Journal Sentinel. I literally have a Journal Sentinel in my hand, a physical paper. And the first thing that you see on it is critics take aim at the Trump vaccine. And then they talk about a romance at the state fair, which is crazy to me. Our election was national headlines, and you mean the Journal Sentinel couldn't even put it on the front page? I think that's very telling.
Okay, but wait, hold on. Let's try to figure something out real quick, because I don't know what time that paper went to bed, because they didn't call that race till like 1:30, 2:30 in the morning.
I get that, but to even not mention that it was a tumultuous race, nothing is on the front.
Oh, there's nothing on the front page at all about the election?
It says see complete election results Journal Sentinel online. That's literally all it says on the front. So I agree with you. But to not even mention that it was a tumultuous race. It was a tough race. It went down to the line. Nothing. They're literally talking about a vaccine and love at the state fair. That's crazy.
Oh, that is crazy. Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Also, when you talk about the individuals who are saying that they may not vote because of misogyny, and I don't want to assume that they were white women, but what I will say is Black women have often been, like you said, disappointed in their professional careers, in their political careers, and we are still expected to vote and support. So to me, you are not being a true Democrat if you are not willing to say, okay, my candidate lost, but I am still here. What can I do? Let me roll my sleeves up. Only if your candidate didn't win. And so many times, Black women are expected to push that to the side and still do work. We could look at Jasmine Crockett, who didn't win, but they were like, okay, get in here and support him. You just told her she couldn't win, but now she has to help him win. And they still expect that from us. So I would just challenge other races, other people who felt like their candidate didn't win. How true are you to being a Democrat if you're still not going to get in there and do everything you can to put this man in office? So that's my thought. Good morning to everybody.
Oof. That's a heck of a thought. Thank you. I appreciate the comments this morning. Yes, ma'am. I mean, and let me just say this. I don't begrudge anybody who feels very strongly about something and they stick to their guns on it. There is room for dissent. We can provide some cover, but the majority of people have to get in lockstep. I have had moments where I could not breathe because of stuff that I was watching happen, and I refused to participate, even when I understood the broader implications. But I also thought that the individual was not going to help us, was not going to make the situation any better. So, when we realize that even though there are major differences, and I will say this when we talk about misogyny, because somebody said, I mean, the man married, he got, 3 daughters. That don't mean you can't, have some jacked up views on women. But what I will say to David Crawley is, you have to be careful about who you standing next to and what they saying when they saying it on your behalf. You have to pay attention. I appreciate the support, and people need to understand that when they talk to you. I appreciate the support, but let me tell you what my lines are. And I'm going to ask that those lines not be crossed when you're talking on my behalf. I value you. I need you. But I need you to also represent me in a way that truly reflects who I am. And because we be so happy to get the help, particularly if it's high profile help, we just stand there, smile and nod while folks say stuff. I almost cussed. While folks say stuff that's out of order. I don't need you to do all of that to help me win. Stick to the facts, stick to the policy. Leave some of that other personal nonsense out. Let me take a break. I'll be right back. If I could do something real quick that under most circumstances I would never do. But today is the anniversary of the passing of Keon Jackson Malone. And today is the anniversary of Keon's passing back in 2024. And Keon Jackson Malone, when he would do his man show, he would talk about the guests he wanted to come in and the issues that he cared about, or if he wanted me to understand, this brother, you're somebody you need to know, Michelle, you need to connect with. I can just hear him in my ear. I remembered when David Crawley was running for county exec. And I had to be gone, and I asked David to cover my show. And David covered my show. And Keon called me later. And Keon said, I'm telling you right now. I said, what? And he paused. And he said, you listening? I said, I'm listening, man. What? He said, I'm telling you right now. I love that dude. I love that dude. So when I got up this morning, understanding, because I see Keon's face every day, because his one of the keepsakes from his funeral with his big old waterhead picture on it is on the side of the refrigerator. I see it every day. I can't walk to the laundry room and not see it. I can't stand at the counter and not see it. Keisha got it sitting right there. I was like, do I have to look at his big old head every day? Every day I see Keon's picture. And so when I got up this morning to get the results, because I went to bed not knowing, I'm not playing. Alexa was like, man, I don't know. It ain't been decided yet when I woke up to ask. So I got up this morning, turned on the TV right away to get the results. I turned around, I looked at that photo, and I said, so what you got to say? That boy would be so proud right now. He would be so proud right now of David Crawley. It would be crazy. So I think what a great way to honor young men who come up through all kinds of trials, tribulations, drama, and still figure out a way to not survive, but to do the damn thing, to thrive. Keon left an impression on so many people. At the funeral, they talked about him being the connector. The number of people that I know that are in my life today because of Keon You gonna meet this person. We gonna go over here. We gonna go have lunch with this person. And I'm like, well, I gotta go. And it was almost like, because in some of these people's situations, these people have now become people that I look out for. And it was almost like he was being used to put us together. It just feels like that some days. As many days I walk away from a situation or doing something, and I'm like, so that was the whole point of this? You wasn't going to be around and making sure that folks had folks looking out for them and connecting them. So I want to acknowledge my man today. I want to thank the people that have kept his memory alive. The event that was held while I was out of town, Debo told me, you know, he had a lot going on that day, but he rode through. He said the park was full. I think that was on August 1st. Yeah. It was a beautiful event. There are so many people, his sister Tyra, family members, friends. There's so many people that's working to make sure that that boy is not forgotten, that his work and love for this community, that somebody stepped in to fill the gap. And for everybody that lifts that boy's name up, thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, let me get the next caller. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's happening?
You, what's happening? You were saying something about black women?
Yes, yes.
You are the epitome of that. And in my family, I have 2 or 3 daughters and a granddaughter who is president of school council that came, and she beats that mold that you were talking about. Black people, black women in particular, and even white women, they're pushed to the back in favor of white men. Well, I must add, though, it's very, very difficult for a black man if he's trying to do something. And it's from experience. Another thing I want to say is, with David Crawley, he had said earlier that his opposition, his closest opposition, was being sponsored by the Republicans.
Right.
And I saw a lot of ads. You couldn't look on the TV and not see an ad with her. And then they said in blurred image, not supported by any candidate. Everything else was out front.
Right.
And then I want to say that in case of Crawley, despite the encumbering obstacles so prevalent in this situation, and due to the overwhelming malfunction on the part of too many people in the operation, he won. And I'm very proud of him. And that little speech I just made, I made that up in the 10th grade in high school. It's a bunch of words, correct, but you can add anything to it in.
All right.
I said it about Obama when he became president. And y'all have a good one.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. A couple quick things before I got to get out of here. You know, today's Wednesday. I was going to say I end my show early today. But a couple things before I get out of here. So, you know, I'm going to just say this. I never publicly endorsed a candidate in this race, even though this race was extremely and is extremely, this election, extremely important. I never endorsed a candidate. I always said I had 2 people in this race that I felt like would be good to you know, and that I would like to see elected. That does not negate the fact, and I've been clear about, I got tall respect for Kelda Roys. I think she is an extremely smart woman. I think she is somebody that cares deeply about the issues that I care about. But when I looked at who I thought, we get across the finish line, David Crawley, Francesca Hong. Those were the two people. I genuinely like Francesca Hong. Don't rock with her. We not besties, none of that. But I appreciate people that's willing to speak their mind, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or disagree, and not waiting for permission. I appreciate people who are willing to go against the grain. I do. And as somebody who is outspoken and who has had people try to silence me and minimize me because I didn't toe the company line or because I didn't fall in line and go with the marching orders, damn y'all. We need people that push back. We need people that ask tough questions. We need people that force you to think outside the box. We do. Lena's favorite line, iron sharpens iron. If people walk away and didn't realize that that's a smart young woman, it's something wrong with, with the way you view people. She is a leader. Flawed, whatever you want to say, she's a leader. On the flip side of that, I have supported David Crawley since I have known David Crawley. I have been honest with David Crawley since I have known David Crawley. When he first said he was running for county exec and he asked me for my support, I said no. Because I didn't think he had enough experience at that time to lead the county. He did the work. He learned that job. He emerges as somebody who leads with conviction and passion. I don't sit here and tell you he gets it right every time. I don't sit here and tell you that he is perfect. I don't sit here and tell you that, he has never made a mistake. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I genuinely believe that this is a good brother who wants the very best for folks. There are days that I get worried because I understand how people try to put their tentacles on folks to influence people. They use our folks and put them out front to carry out their agendas. Then they stack their offices with all their damn people. And so sometimes you don't know if this is my guys' positions or views or if this is the folks that help propel him into a situation, if it's their views. So I'm always going to work to hold him accountable. I'm always going to work to make sure that the same dude that I knew and I fell in love with as a young organizer and a young legislative staffer and that brother who goes on to ascend to the assembly, I'm going to always hold him accountable. I'm going to always expect the best from him. To his wife, Erica, who shows up and supports in a quiet strength. He gonna need you every step of the way. Because if we thought what Francesca and the attacks look like, $2.3 million being spent to come for her head was something, wait till we go through this process. All the ugly racism is going to appear. Any dirt, any debt, anything that people can do, the opposition research has already been underway. It's loaded. It's locked in the trigger. They're going to be coming for him. So he is going to need, in addition to time, resources, money, talent, your vote, he is going to need your emotional support to get through these next 84 days. And make no mistake, he gonna need some money. Because if Tiffany's sitting on a $7 million war chest, I know money's gonna come in because they are national players that want to see this thing go well. So I'm I'm fine this morning with the results of this election. When I stood in the booth, and because I didn't vote until yesterday, and I had to vote, I looked at Francesca's name and I looked at David's name, and I stood there in all honesty for a minute because I respect Francesca. I don't care what nobody say. But at the end of the day, I had to vote for the dude that I know where he stands on a lot of issues. At the end of the day, that's where I chose to stand. Doesn't speak any less for Francesca. If she had won, I would have been okay with that too. I'm just telling y'all the honest to God truth. I like Francesca. David is my dude. It don't give him a pass, but he my dude. So now that we got to get this thing done, we got to get it done. And that means everybody is going to have to show up. And I'm going to say this publicly before I close out my show. When David re-entered the race, his team never asked to come on my show. He announced on my show, you make an important decision to re-enter the race and nobody from your team says, hey, can we get David on? Because understand this, when David has been on my show, I ain't called him. They call me. This audience is important. My listeners are not always Keith's listeners. And I'm going to just say this going forward. Leave us out again, and you're going to have a damn problem with me. I held my peace. But leave my listening audience out again, and y'all going to have a problem with me. All right. That's the show for this morning. Family, I appreciate y'all. Everybody that participated, thank you so much for taking this seriously, doing the work that is required. And we got a big job ahead of us. Let's get this boy across the finish line. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Bruhs, I appreciate y'all. Peace.